I'm feeling good today.
Why?
I don't know why. We usually out of the two of us, I think I'm the quieter of the two potentially, and
You might
maybe
be
our
louder
listeners today just realize that like I'm just there. I'm feeling it. I'm ready to go in.
We'll take it. I'm sure everyone will appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's because I ate before.
Wait, are you saying this is the first time you've eaten
This
before
actually
our show ever?
confirmed. This is the first time I think I've eaten before our show. I
Gino,
might have done
what
it
the
once
hell?
before.
You're saying you don't eat breakfast in the morning?
Well, first of all, I don't eat breakfast.
Okay.
Second of all, I usually eat around 2 to 3.
Okay.
Which is around the time that we record. So it's like, So no, I don't usually eat. You know what? Also, it could be
What?
that the King Kong versus Godzilla movie's coming out tomorrow.
let's go.
And we here at Your Resident Nerds are fucking hyped. Speaking of Your Resident Nerds, I'm Gino, your resident weeb.
I'm Nikita, your resident comic book nerd.
And this is Your Resident Nerds.
Welcome to the show.
We've been hyping ourselves up.
Yeah.
For I don't know how much.
A long time. We also came out with
merch.
merch if you guys want to buy it. We didn't really push it that much as we should have, but just so you guys know, Team Kong versus Team Zilla shirts. It's in our link in our bio.
Buy
if you wanna
Team
check it
Kong
out.
shirts. Fuck,
Come on,
Godzilla.
fuck, represent. Let's go, boys.
The only other thing
girls.
I'll mention about video game docs, our good friend Justin, who runs it. I was texting him earlier about the movie and wanting to go see it, and I said, how great would it be if every time that King Kong and Godzilla are really laying down the punches on each other, that Blueberry Fago starts to play in the background.
I'll
you don't
be
think
honest,
it would be good?
I don't think it'd be that good.
I think it'd be
I'll
great. He also was of the opinion that he thought he said he would quote kill himself if that would happen in the actual film. So here's to hoping it doesn't.
I'd be honest, I don't think they will. I don't.
Wouldn't
The
it be great, though?
soundtrack for it though is killer. I will say
it is. I hated it at first, but I'm kind of loving it now.
Damn.
So. But that's like one section of like movie news. We got some other
What's
stuff
the next
going
section?
on.
What's the next thing we're talking about today?
Nishuler's Nobody, who I hope
Russian,
I'm not
let's go.
butchering his name.
No, that's right.
Nikita's
Russian.
our resident Russian. So like
Nishuler is about as correct as you can get.
So Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk, who you might know from Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad. I believe he's been in other things, but those I think are his big ones.
Yeah.
The movie's doing rather excellent, both in regards to like critics' acclaim scores, normal people going to see it. My good buddy Ross tried to convince me to come see it with him. I was like, no. I was like, I don't have time for it. I'm gonna drink instead. That's what I did. But he went to go see it with his girlfriend. They had a great time, and right now it is actually, since COVID started, has the third highest box office score. Right behind Wonder Woman at 16.7 million in its opening box office.
Yeah. And
Tenet, which opened at 9 million.
Yeah.
It is sitting at 6.8.
For movies, isn't that huge? But for COVID opening movies is actually enormous.
Well, so for COVID, it's important. What's more important is the fact that this movie wasn't very well known prior to its actually release. They didn't do a lot of marketing for it. When I talked about Nikita about this movie coming out, he had no fucking clue what I was talking about.
Yeah, until I saw the trailer again.
It doing 6.8 as like just kind of a random film, you could quote unquote say, one that was kind of coming out of left quarter, is really, really good in terms of the movie industry for what people are going to see.
Okay.
Just going to see it like casually, right? So it's hopefully a sign that because things are kind of opening back up now with like the vaccines coming out in the US for COVID and such, that things are going back to normal somewhat, hopefully, especially in terms of the movie theaters, which is where my concern is.
Yeah, because
in terms of
they've
the
been
industry.
dying out slowly.
So
but hopefully.
I think it's really good news. I'm really happy about it. If you get a chance to go see it in theaters, please do. I've heard very great things about it. So
that's good. That's awesome.
Yes.
Shoot.
Yes,
I might check it out.
You might. Right. It's an action movie.
Yeah,
it's about your every average day guy. What if he's got a secret thing going on? He's going and his family's injured or something, and he goes and fights that. I don't know. We've seen that story a million times, but I've heard that Bob Odenkirk actually is like a very good like John Wick-esque character.
That makes sense, though, especially seeing him in Better Call Saul.
Well, he has like such a comedic. I need to watch Better Call Saul because I saw Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
He was great in Breaking Bad, and I've heard really good things about Better Call Saul. But thinking as him as like an action hero star, it's very interesting to think about.
Yeah.
So I am excited for it though.
Okay, cool. Well, the next thing, Gino, have you seen the Suicide Squad trailer?
Oh my god, would it surprise you to know that I've watched it at least 3 times a night since it came out.
It's actually so good.
And made a TikTok about it where I danced my ass off.
Yeah, you did. I remember that.
People.
Check out our TikTok, everyone. Plug TikTok at Your Resident Nerd and Instagram. But no, my reaction to it was insane. I also made a little TikTok about it, but I talked about the villain because spoiler warning if you haven't seen the trailer, but I mean not really a spoiler because it's in the trailer. But one of the villains in this, at least, maybe not the main villain, but one of the villains is going to be Starro, which no movie has touched yet, which I'm so excited. TV shows rarely even touch Starro, but he's such a funny and cool character in the comics, and he's the Justice League's first villain.
Yes, so which is where I think I really would say like the excitement comes out of it is that he's finally getting introduced. Like I think he's such a cool addition to have like a live action.
You could have done it first.
A live action kind of scene, man. A giant starfish, like fuck yeah, bro. I'll take it.
I'm excited. I think a lot of people were kind of on the fence about DC's movies, even with Snyder League. It's doing really well at the moment, but that might be more just because it's being compared to the first movie as opposed to its actual release.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely had a mixed reaction. Some people love it, some people hate it, and so the DC universe is in a weird spot. But I think Suicide Squad might cement it at the moment.
I see, and this is coming from someone like I thought that originally when they started releasing information about this variation of the Suicide Squad, like James Gunn's version, I thought it was going to be really bad. Just because they were like overcasting essentially, so you're just getting like a lot of like big acting names and like what I think we know about this Suicide Squad movie is that a lot of people are gonna die, and so I really was just kind of like under the impression I'm like, wow, you're just pulling in all these people just to show us getting killed in various ways, like ha ha ha, like that won't stop being funny after the first 5 minutes. It looks really fucking good though.
It does.
I am overtly excited. More so than I can explain.
James Gunn is probably the perfect director to be put on it. For those of you that don't know, he also did Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. So, he gets that kind of team theme. Not that they're exactly the same, but
Idris Elba's going to be there. My girl Margot Robbie as fucking Harley Quinn.
John Cena.
Oh. Yes, I'm actually excited to see him in this movie.
Right.
He gets on my nerves so much because he goes from doing like really he can like be funny, he can act, but he goes from being like good movies to being in like really bad shitty like family comedy films. There was one about the firemen that came out a couple of years ago that was very, very bad. I would never watch it if you ever have a chance to. I don't remember the name of it. It's not that important. I'm not going to advertise for it. So
okay, cool.
But I'm excited to see him in this movie though. So I think it speaks to it that like I'm hyped.
Yeah, I think Suicide Squad will be. I think it'll. Oh fuck! I'm so excited. Please, if you haven't watched it, check out the trailer. If you're not a DC fan, I think this might sway you a little bit because I don't like DC movies either. But Suicide Squad is doing it for me. I'll be honest.
All the people on TikTok like you Marvel fuck boys.
Yeah, seriously, good. We talk more about DC, and I hope this shows like we're actually excited for this DC movie, which the original one sucked as well. So I'm glad it's getting a new retelling of it, which I think should happen for the Justice League.
They don't have to go through this whole like kind of origin thing. Like I think it's just well cemented, and they're just gonna go for it. And I'm good for it.
Just to quickly talk about some other DC movie news too. It's actually not in our script, but we have a little bit of time. Restore the Snyderverse is trending again right now, and I hate to burst your all's bubble, but I don't think DC is gonna be putting Warner Brothers specifically is gonna put in millions, and I mean hundreds of millions, to finish out the trilogy when it won't bring it back that much money. I think part of the reason it's done so well again is because it's on HBO Max, so it's free to see for anyone who already has it. You're not spending extra money to see it.
Which good on them, by the way.
Yeah, jab on.
We're about to literally talk about Disney kind of fucking.
Don't worry. Yeah, we'll knock on Marvel.
Good job HBO Max for.
Yeah,
just releasing it.
I see a lot of fans taking it to the extreme. I've seen fans literally giving other people death threats. Some people, I've seen comments on Facebook posts where people are like, I didn't really like it that much. It was an all right movie. And they're like, okay, well, you should probably bury yourself then because you're stupid. And I'm like, yo, that's not okay. And if you're going to push that as your agenda for Restore the Snyderverse, it's not going to work. I'll tell you that now. The only reason released the Snyder Cut kind of worked was because most people weren't that crazy about it. Gino's still shocked about that comment, by the way. That's a lot of Snyder fans at the moment. Yeah, a lot. It's kind of disgusting. If you're doing that, you're a shitty person and you don't deserve any movie. I don't know who you think you are, but I've just seen that as a problem, so I just wanted to address that now because it's kind of disgusting.
Please don't be a toxic fan. Holy shit!
Yeah. That's not how you promote your brand, your movie at all. And again, unfortunately, Snyder's vision did not work for DC in theaters, and that's where you get most of your money. They're not going to go that direction. I don't believe personally. I don't think they're going to restore the Snyderverse. And I think if people keep sending hate towards AT&T and stuff, I think that actually pushes that notion away even more. I don't think that'll push them to want to do a movie. That'll show them this is why we probably shouldn't have done Snyder Cut if fans are going to act like this.
I think the interesting thing is that even if they do restore the Snyder Cut, it will not be 4 years. Think about how long it took for this iteration of the Justice League to come out. Now you have to shoot entirely new films with actors who don't want to be associated with the film property anymore.
Very few. Ben Affleck, I think, is the only one so far that said he would come back, and Ezra Miller, and potentially Ray Fisher, but not Henry Cavill. I don't know about Gal Gadot. I don't know about Jason Momoa. You know,
Gal Gadot's probably cemented in still. If I had to guess, I don't know if she'd want to do Snyder's iteration of it, but she is there.
Yeah,
she's locked in.
But I just wanted to bring that up because that's been a very toxic trend. Don't be one of those fans, please. I'm happy Snyder Cut came out. I think that was deserved, and I think it came out at the right time during a pandemic. But I'd rather see the company progress as opposed to go back and make the same mistakes it did before, because nothing will change from the original.
And we've seen leaks of what Snyder wanted to do for his trilogy, anyways. And
Superman and Batman sharing a son and stuff like that. It's wild. It's so bad. Yeah. Anyways, to move on from that, not because
related to HBO Max, though, we have Disney Plus and the final release date of the Black Widow movie.
Yeah, so that actually remember how we talked about this, I think literally last episode, where we said, hey, it's coming out, it finally is coming out May 7th, the whole year.
Baby, let's go.
It's actually going to be a little bit longer than a year now, folks, because they just moved the release date to July.
I believe
9th.
It is cemented now.
Yeah, it's cemented. Yes. And, we rag on DC a lot for some of the stuff. Again, we're hyped for Suicide Squad, so I hope you don't think we're just Marvel fanboys, but we're going to rag on Marvel and Disney now, because they are releasing it on Disney Plus, which, sounds exciting at first, but it will be behind a premium paywall of $30, like what they did with Mulan, and I think it was Raya and the Dragon, or whatever that movie was titled. Yeah. I think that's kind of bullshit.
So I've been thinking it over. In general, yes, I agree it's bullshit. There is only one possibility that I might be able to give Disney a pass on this, and that is if the $30 is an incentive to push people into the movie theaters to just go see it there rather than see it streaming, because they're trying to revitalize essentially the movie industry. They need people to actually go back in there. And so we have this really pressing problem, right? That if July really hasn't been the end of COVID season, right? If COVID revamps because people are going out more in public and because not everyone is vaccinated yet, right?
Yeah.
You have this kind of forced wall where it's you pay a fuck ton extra to see this movie at home, or you're kind of risking potentially your own safety and others safety by going out to movie theaters.
Yep.
So I get it potentially, but I don't get the $30 price, man.
Yeah,
you're already paying for Disney Plus.
Well, here's the thing, because I've seen a lot of back and forth between some fans, and I hear what I will give Disney when it comes to the premium access payment plan.
Yeah.
I get it if it's a movie being released out in theaters. I get you wanting to get extra money because it is in the comfort of your own home. I understand that. But I would say $30 is too much. Even if you're watching with a family, you're already paying months worth of Disney Plus fees already, because you've had it for a couple months, I'm assuming. So if you're putting it on a platform where you're already paying for the content, adding an extra $30 is too much for me. Because what if you are just watching it by yourself? Or even if you are watching it with friends and family, who cares? I say max it should be is a $10 fee, because I get the premium content idea. It is a movie that is out in theaters right now, not on DVD. It's special. I understand that, and I'd be okay if they only charge $10. Charging $30 though just seems like a dirty scheme, comparing it to HBO Max, which is literally releasing all their movies this year for free on HBO Max. King Kong versus Godzilla, Mortal Kombat, all those for free, no paywall. Bullshit.
And what I would say is that I really think it would make it better, because I understand the objection in regards to multiple people are going to see it, and so you're getting cut out of movie tickets, right? Essentially at that point, if 3 people go to see it, you're making over the $30 margin, but that can be easily taken away if multiple people are seeing that together at home. I get that. The point that I wanted to bring up in comparison to that, though, is if Disney did the $30 premium access, but then they give you digital codes so that you're essentially buying a DVD copy of it, you were owning the film at that point, right?
Oh yeah.
But you're not getting that, because
No,
you can't still watch, like, if you ended your Disney subscription plan, you still wouldn't have access to the film afterwards,
Yep.
right? That's bullshit. If
Yeah.
you're paying $30 for essentially what really is like you buying a DVD prior to them like sending home release sales, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good point. I didn't even
fucking
think about
ridiculous.
that.
I think that's the easiest solution is you literally just give them a download code and say like here, like you can install it onto whatever device system. If you want to download it onto your computer, whatever. It gives you that copy of the movie essentially. I think to me that would be the most fair thing that they can do for the price that they're fucking charging for it.
Yeah, then I would be down for the $30 price.
Yeah.
At that point, if you're getting a free downloadable version, hell yeah, then I understand that.
Because you're like buying like a Blu-ray.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
You get like a 4K like
which is about the price,
sound. There
20
you
to
go.
30. Actually, I think Blu-ray's even cheaper, but hey, fuck it,
It's coming out early, whatever.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
have to go to the theaters to see it with people. All right, like I get it. At that point, I could see the $30 price margin. But again, it's going to be available to everybody in 3 months, anyways.
Yeah,
So this $30 is just
it's stupid.
ew.
So yeah, it to me, I understand the system of a premium paywall, and I think that is okay for a business to do in this situation. I think Disney is just taking it to the extreme where it's clearly a greedy tactic, not just meant to make a fair amount of money. It's to make, we can make more money. We can milk them.
Well, so
know?
they're probably really worried because like they need to make the money back. You know. That is the other thing that I'm sure they're freaking out about a little bit,
but
which is fine. Whatever they can freak out about it. This is not the solution to deal with that
No,
problem.
not at all.
Not in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, so that's with Black Widow. It just got the release date got pushed back again to July, and it's going to be behind a paywall on Disney Plus. So yeah, I will probably be seeing it in person as opposed to paying that bullshit paywall. But
that's just what they want you to do. They've got you hook, line, and
That's
sinker.
fine.
They're pushing you into the movie theaters.
That's fine.
You're just a little baba sheep.
I don't have Disney Plus
Disney.
at the moment, regardless. If I watch something, I'll watch with a friend. So if they want me to get Disney Plus, then don't keep doing these schemy things.
The Disney execs are going
Not-
to hear that. They're going to say,
I know, God.
you're... I always hate that with streaming services that they don't like the idea of like people. It's like how it's so hard
Sharing,
to watch
yeah.
things online together, and I'm like, what is the difference between me watching this on my buddy's couch versus me watching it in a Discord with them?
Yep.
Like I'd get it if we're getting it from an illegal online streaming site. I get that.
Yeah.
But like if one of us owns it, the streaming service.
The only thing you're taking away is me driving to that person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, literally.
Anyways, that's the movie news for you. Some awesome stuff there. Nobody and Suicide Squad really cool. Some bad stuff like Restore the Snyderverse and Black Widow's news, but it's what you get.
Let's get into some actual comic book news.
Yeah. That was a lot of comic related content, but before I guess we'll still kind of stay related in the whole streaming thing, but huge news. We talked about this last time. Invincible.
Well, we have propped up HBO Max,
God,
Netflix.
Disney Plus.
I think we mentioned Netflix at least once now.
Yeah.
I just did.
Yeah.
Disney Plus and now Amazon Prime.
Yo, these streaming services are really fighting tooth and nail.
We're just going back to cable.
Hey.
Fuck it. Like it's over. We're done.
It's still slightly cheaper, but it's getting dangerously to that cable level.
Yeah.
But
especially because the worst part is that they keep doing the bullshit with like we'll literally talk about this with Invincible about the whole delayed releases per week. That frustrates the hell out
I am
of me.
kind of okay with it, but I also do hate. am annoyed by
The
it. But
anger
anyway,
in
let's get into it. Invincible. It is killer so far, you guys. We talked about this last episode where we gave you the rundown of what Invincible is about because the TV show is coming out that week. I hope you guys have seen it. Gino, your first reaction. I'm curious because Gino has not read the comic at all. He heard the little backstory, but that was about it. But what did you think when you were watching the show?
Good music so far.
Awesome.
Interesting world design.
Yep.
Not a big fan of the animation, but we
Fair.
talked about this.
Yeah.
I really did like the fight scenes though.
Yeah, the fight scenes are. Would you say it's like your regular comic book TV show?
Not entirely. I think so. My only other problem I think I'm having with Invincible is I like the story. Sometimes the dialogue wears on me a little bit.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. There's only and it only happens sometimes. Sometimes it's really good, and then other times I'm listening to it and I'm just like I can't tell if it's the voice actors or if it's the actual writing itself.
Like comedic lines usually that
No,
miss,
because
or
the
just-
comedic lines are actually usually really good. I'm talking more about like when they have like normal conversations sometimes. I'm just kind of like it's hard to explain. I don't know.
Okay,
I wish I had more
gotcha.
specific examples, but that was just the first telling from
Okay, gotcha. But you wouldn't say it's like your regular comic book. Like it's not Teen Titans. It's not Young Justice. Like that's where
definitely
I was. Yeah.
Especially with that's why I said is with the action, like the actual action in the show. No, definitely not.
No, yeah, it's gruesome at times, kind of brutal, but so far it's doing really well. Fan reviews have been amazing. I think IGN was the only one that kind of gave it a meh for the first 3 episodes. They haven't seen the rest of the season, so maybe their reviews will change. But everyone else has given it some pretty amazing reviews. I loved it so far. If you like the comic book, it's kind of a 1-to-1 comparison. Some details were definitely changed. I will say that. But they were just kind of minute details that kind of had to deal with because you have to remember the comic came out in 2003, almost 20 years ago. So a lot of things are different and changed now. So more to modernize it. But besides that, plot is 1-to-1 exactly like the comic so far. And they've hinted at a lot of things, and I want to see this show go.
See, I was going to say, so if you got the wrong impression about the review I just gave, I will point out that by the end of episode 3, not only was I was pissed because there wasn't an episode 4, I couldn't get to the next one. I was really mad about that. And then I became an Eve stan by the end of episode 3. I was like best girl. I was like favorite character by far. If she dies, I'm gonna be the anger is gonna be there.
So it's a good show so far. We like it here at Your Resident Nerd. I want to see where it goes. I really hope it continues. It needs at least 5 seasons. I'm saying it right now. At least 5 seasons to be able to do what they want to do. This first season is 8 episodes, and they are doing an episodic release. So they release the first 3 episodes for you to see, and then the next episode will be out this Friday, and then next Friday, so and so and so. So by the time this comes out, there should actually be 4 episodes out. So you have almost half the season already to check out, and I recommend checking it out because if it gets support, it will continue and will follow and will finish out. You get to basically read the Invincible comic without reading it, which would be so cool.
Ironically, again, these people are going to see the episode before we do.
Yeah. You will know whether the 4th episode is super awesome or not before we get to
about how far has like the 3 episodes gone into the comics. I know you said that it needs about 5 seasons, but like about where
honestly,
are
we? it might need more than 5 seasons as if they start rushing things a little bit, but you're still probably in the first like 13 to 15 issues, I think. Okay. Maybe the first 20. I'm trying to remember where another big thing happens. I think it's the season is clearly leading to this other big thing that happens between Mark and his dad, and I think it'll happen at the end of the season. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. So we'll see. Yes.
I forgot. Sorry. That other dimension scene. I'm not going to say anything else about it. That other dimension scene was cool as hell.
Yeah. I agree. It
was great.
Nolan's character is a badass. Yeah, really. Again, you guys should definitely check out Invincible. It is an amazing TV show. It's not your kid's show. It's definitely an adult comic book show. I'll tell you that now. But yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. There's, I think, 180 issues, and it seems like we're about like 10, 13 issues in right now. So
gotcha.
We'll see how much they can really squeeze in. I think they'll skip a lot of the inconsequential, smaller stories because they did have a lot of that in the beginning, and they have been seeming to skip it a little bit.
Yeah.
Besides that comic book news, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is out right now on Disney Plus, and it has been killing Disney Plus records. It actually had the largest debut of any show, and that's including The Mandalorian. So it seems to be getting a lot of positive reception. There are some critiques of it. I have my own critiques of it. We'll probably do a big review of it as bonus content on our Patreon, but they have been revealing a lot of cool new characters. And a lot of characters kind of related to the Captain America mythos that we don't really see that much in the MCU, which is super awesome. And so this isn't really a big spoiler for the show because, I mean, they literally show up in the 2nd episode and you don't really know much about them. But today we're going to be talking about the history of the first Black Captain America and heroes that he inspired, including Justice and the Patriot, or Justice X.
The interesting thing about all the characters that we're going to talk about today is that Captain America potentially might never actually interact with any of them, or like the MCU's Captain America.
Yeah. The MCU's Captain America, because he's gone, as you all know. If you've seen the movies,
sorry,
or the TV show.
Who hasn't seen Endgame?
Yeah, exactly. Iron Man and Captain America, rip in peace. But they actually introduced, for those of you that have been watching the show, Isaiah and Eli Bradley, who Isaiah Bradley was the very first Black Captain America, and Eli Bradley hasn't really done anything yet in the comics, or in the not in the in the show. In the comics, he's become his own hero called the Patriot. And there's also he has an uncle named Josiah Bradley who's Justice X, and they have a very interesting history. So I kind of wanted to go over that today, so you know about the first Black Captain America, because most people think that was Sam, the Falcon, who took on the Captain America role, but that is not the case at all. Isaiah has a large history. They talk about a lot of politics and stuff like that in comics. That's always been talked about in comics, and they talk about a lot of important issues when it comes to systemic racism, which I think we all need to be educated about.
Does Marvel tackle politics more than DC typically?
Yeah, more so than DC, honestly, but DC still has its fair share of politics.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I was going to say that was more of a question of like I know early Captain America was a lot about
very political.
Yeah,
incredibly. Yeah, a lot of people seem to claim like, oh, comics are getting political. That's why I don't read them anymore. Comics have always been political. You just have been ignoring it for whatever reason.
It's a really
very
terrible
bad take.
The X-Men are literally all based on politics.
Yes, literally,
yeah.
almost all of their heroes, a lot of their big heroes, X-Men, Captain America, even Iron Man, capitalist nature. Anyways.
Yeah.
Today, we'll go into the first Black Captain America. And with that, you start with Isaiah Bradley. He's the head of the family, the first super soldier in the family, obviously, because he grew up in the World War II era, as we all know, alongside Cap. And he faces a lot of racial issues in his comics, including, being attacked, harassed, and having to deal with, like, the problematic issues of segregation. Like, the very first issue deals with him going to a parade for the first time because that was the only weekend Black people were allowed to go to the parade. And so, he deals with a lot of these issues in New York's community, I believe growing up in Brooklyn or the Bronx, one of the two. But he's actually a big role model and advocate for Black rights and civil rights in general for that era, at least in the comics.
When were his comics released initially?
Early
I'm assuming
2000s.
Early
I was 2000s. Maybe Isaiah might have been revealed actually in the late 90s, but
Gotcha.
Patriot and all them are more early 2000s.
Okay, I was making sure. I didn't think it was like
No,
the 50s or the 40s
not.
that you're
No,
referring
they
to.
would not
Yeah,
be.
yeah. I was like, huh.
That would be too much, I feel like, for Marvel to
For the 40s and 50s, yes, I would agree with that, Nikita.
But so him and his wife are kind of major community members when it comes to advocating for Black rights. And because that, Isaiah's very loyal to America. He's still very patriotic, and so he actually joins the army after the Pearl Harbor bombing. And so it was there that things started to take a little bit of a turn for Isaiah's life because his platoon is primarily Black people. As you might know, back in even during the Vietnam War, they would again still segregate people in their platoons and in their factions with the military, and so a lot of Black people were in the same platoon, white people were in their own platoon, and a lot of Black people were actually thrown at the front lines. For those of you that don't know, and that's
if you get a chance, World War II, I don't know as much about. I
I
believe
it's
it
more
happened in World War
Vietnam.
II, but if you get a chance to look into Vietnam's history on that, it's something that everybody should know.
Yeah, and that's something that you actually see with Josiah's character, Isaiah's son, but we'll get there. So with Isaiah, his platoon is actually fighting with a lot of the white platoons that are harassing them. And so because of this, his platoon gets kind of pulled out and subjected to a special kind of training, is what the government says. This training is incredibly secretive because on their very first day, their commanding officer literally gets shot right in front of them by two German scientists who say, there are going to be no secrets. Your families have been told that you are dead, and you are going to become the next super soldier. So, they're basically experimenting on all these Black guys to try and create their next super soldier because they don't want to risk it on a white platoon.
Now, this is still during World War II.
Yeah, this is still during World War II, in the middle of the war.
And so they already know that, like, Caps worked.
Yeah, Cap
so
worked.
This is America trying to, like, recreate that in the middle of the war.
Yes, because I think it was Dr. Eisenhower, the original scientist on it, got killed. So they don't have his information. And so Isaiah's wife was actually told, hey, Isaiah died. Isaiah's wife, her name is Faith. But Faith actually doesn't believe the government because she checks the coffin that they claim, had her husband's body, and it's actually just a burnt white man. And so she's like, okay, clearly this is not my husband. And all the while, she's actually pregnant with their daughter. So she actually gives birth to their daughter, Sarah, Sarah Bradley. There we go. Their last name is Bradley. Sarah Bradley, as he's overseas. And that's a key thing to remember. Don't forget about Sarah Bradley and the timing of her birth. But yeah,
they really fucked that up.
Yeah,
Just putting a burnt white guy
yeah, right.
there.
Why would you?
Good
US
job.
government. Good job. Amazing, Shield. Amazing. or I don't know if it was S.H.I.E.L.D., but, the government. And so she goes on to try and figure out, what's going on, where's my husband? So she knows her husband isn't dead, at least, so she's got that going for her. But Isaiah, in the meantime, is being experimented on, and there were a lot of gruesome outcomes to that experiment, and he's one of the few, there was like a very small handful of people that actually survived the experimentations.
Yeah.
And he ends up being the last one alive because his entire platoon actually gets killed because they're sent on a mission to prevent the German scientists from recreating their own Nazi super soldiers. And so they attack this base, and one of their guys kind of went insane himself. And so things just go all kinds of wrong in this mission, and everyone dies, and only Isaiah gets out. And actually, part of the reason that this mission failed was that Captain America was actually supposed to be a part of this mission as well and was supposed to be their backup, but he was preoccupied with another mission, so he actually never made it out, and that's why all of Isaiah's platoon men died.
So do they actually have their own versions of super serum then?
Yes, it's not a perfected version though, and
yeah, it never is.
You'll see it as Isaiah gets older. Like with Cap, the serum prevents him from aging at a regular rate. He ages slower and stuff like that. But with Isaiah, his body actually starts to deteriorate over time. So we'll get into that. But it's definitely not an exact copy.
He's definitely more than an average person though at this point, or so is his platoon.
Yes, exactly. But the government basically forces Isaiah and tells him, "Hey, you still got to finish the mission." So Isaiah felt he had to take things into his own hands. So being tasked to finish out this mission, he believes, this needs a Captain America. And so he actually steals Captain America's original costume, one of his original suits, and a prototype shield that had this like V for Victory type style to it. It was a silver shield before it was painted on, and goes to prevent the Germans from completing their experiment. Mission is a complete success. He sabotages the whole thing, but he gets kidnapped by Adolf Hitler, who, tells the Germans, okay, take his blood, mutilate him, send him back to America. So as he's being transported to an internment camp, and I mean, some of the stuff that he goes through, like he gets put in a gas chamber, doesn't die, and sees other people get gas. Like he goes through some brutal PTSD level stuff, but eventually he is rescued by the American government. He's taken back to their camp and is then told he's actually being court-martialed. Even though he succeeded in the mission, him stealing and impersonating Captain America to them was disgraceful and against the law.
Yeah, I can definitely see that in the
Captain
40s.
America, apparently.
Yeah.
So they imprison him for life. His wife finds out about this and finds out, okay, he's alive.
What?
And I know, right? Okay. Sacrifices his life, stops fucking German Nazi super soldiers from appearing, and he gets imprisoned.
This just feels like such the ultimate waste of like his abilities too. Like
Isaiah's an incredible character, and it shows because even while he's in jail, he still speaks out for the black community, watches out for the black community in jail. He partially inspires the Black Panthers in the Marvel universe, for being the very first black Captain America.
Character. I'm sad this isn't more like.
Yeah, it's sad because it probably won't be explored that much in Falcon and the Winter Soldier either. His grandson and nephew or son might be, but yeah, his backstory is really cool. His story is kind of told to other black superheroes too across Marvel Universe, so he's a big inspiration. And he actually does get out. He's not in jail for life because his wife Faith literally I was going to say email. That was not the case. Writes a letter to President Eisenhower every day for 3 years straight to pardon her husband. And eventually, Eisenhower loses the election to JFK. And again, this goes into the whole politics thing. Eisenhower doesn't want JFK to know about, the secret experiments that they were running in World War II. So he agrees to pardon him on the fact that Faith and Isaiah don't speak about the program publicly.
Dude, they were like, you know what? Fine.
We'll take it. Yeah.
After all of that.
He was in prison for 17 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's definitely understandable.
Yep. So as sad as that story is, he at least still left a very lasting impact on the community around him, and at least he still got out. And even Captain America himself would learn of this story because he didn't know about all this going on. Steve isn't that kind of character, I hope. And so he actually goes back to Isaiah and says, I'm sorry that this happened to you. Have this original costume back. Gives him like the original tattered costume and says, you've earned it. You are Captain America as well. And so for a time, Isaiah would kind of still do some Captain America-esque stuff, but not for too long because, again, the super soldier serum they used kind of more degraded his body over time rather than enhance it. So he would actually, get slower, weaker. He would still age normally, but still I think at this point in the comics, he's an 80-year-old man. For an 80-year-old man, still pretty, he doesn't look young by any means, but still very Gumptuous, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I don't know if that's a word.
That's
Fuck
okay.
it, we'll take it.
That's all right.
He's got gumption to him. He's still very patriotic.
Nice. I like
There
that
you
one.
go,
He's got energy, confidence.
Exactly. But that's not the end of the whole Bradley family story, because now we go on to Josiah, who became Justice X. Josiah Bradley is Isaiah and Faith's son, quote unquote, kind of.
Also, real quick before because we're about to move off from Faith, I'm assuming.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
What a real one. Seriously.
Yeah, I know.
Best girl.
I know.
Right there. Like, legitimately. I just wanted to make that
Mailed a
comment
letter
before we go
every
in.
day for 3 years straight. Did
Holy
not
cow.
give up on her husband. Raised their kid all in the meantime. Crazy. Amazing.
If I ever
A1 woman.
get kidnapped by the U.S. government and forcefully court-martialed for impersonating some type of superhero that
I
would
hope
exist
my wife
in
doesn't give up on
2031,
me.
I hope she makes one of those codes that just spam emails someone, like that just floods their mailbox or whatever.
It's like, save my husband or I will spam you. But now we get on to Josiah, who's a little more, I wouldn't say controversial, but his origin was not a regular. He wasn't really. Well, okay, basically, while Isaiah was imprisoned by the government, they didn't want to stop the super soldier experiment. And they're like,
why would they?
And they're like, Isaiah seemed to have worked fine, but he's a little degraded. But hey, let's see if we can replicate this. And so, not only do they have Isaiah's sperm from, I guess, when he was in the military, but they like secretly take his wife Faith's what?
How does that work?
I don't know if you have to donate it when or maybe they took it while they were doing the experiments on him. I don't know. But they have his sperm, and they secretly actually take his wife's, her eggs, because she had gone a vasectomy, I believe, and they had a surgeon or spy during the surgery who stole her eggs, essentially. And so with that, they use it to create their own version of his Isaiah.
So like a test tube baby.
Yeah, test tube baby. Well, actually,
clone?
Not really, because they actually put him in a surrogate mother whose blood type and DNA kind of matched Faith's, and so they're like, okay, you'll be the surrogate mother. She doesn't really know what's going on. She just has this baby. Gotcha. She's excited, is getting paid. But then she finds out, while the baby's in the womb, they're injecting the baby with the super soldier serum, a perfected version, so that it doesn't degrade him over time, obviously. Yeah. And so while the baby's in the womb, she's starting to realize, hey, this is not normal. They're experimenting on this baby, and she does a little more research and finds out they're going to use him as their next super soldier, and not in any humane way, obviously. And so she runs away with the baby, and after he's born, she loves Josiah, and she shows up later in his life, but she gives him up to an orphanage to hide him so that the government can't find him.
Yo, the women in this comic book series
amazing.
Are a fucking one.
Yup, fucking
for not having
amazing.
powers, they're like all heroes.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough,
I agree. I would
love
definitely say they're heroes. And so Josiah would then grow up in this orphanage. He would come to learn of his powers because he's already just naturally strong. He was born with them because they experimented on him when he was in the womb, and he accidentally he's in this religious orphanage, and so they're beating on him, and so he actually accidentally knocks out this nun unintentionally.
Yeah,
he's like, oh shit, as like a kid.
There's a lot of problems that could come with that.
Yeah, so
you're just playing baseball with your friends, you crack a baseball and it just goes like,
whoa. Yeah. So it was there that he learned, I have abilities. And so growing up, he was, I guess, also just very naturally patriotic and gifted. So he enters the Vietnam War. So this is where we were talking about, where especially black platoons were being thrown at the front line. Yeah. Everything was kind of going well for the most part until a missile strike is almost called on them from a white ranking officer who is just like, oh, well, only the black platoons are out there, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. And so Josiah, obviously being infuriated by this, fucking knocks him out, like gives him a really powerful strike, nearly killing him. And so for this, he's also court-martialed. But the government at this point realizes, hey, this is the kid that got away. This is our super soldier. And so they tell him, like, hey, this time we won't imprison you as long as you agree to be our agent for a little while. Okay. And so he takes the deal and takes up the moniker Justice X. For, in honor of Malcolm X and such. Yeah. But he would then go on to do missions for the government. Eventually, he would kind of get a deal and get away from them and kind of be this more Captain America-esque hero. Mm-hmm. He would even partner up with a lot of heroes like War Machine, James Rhodey, and actually helps him investigate the murder of Rhodey's sister, which is really cool. So he even then has a lasting impact on a lot of other heroes. And he would find out about his true origin, the Bradley family, and would reconnect with his father and mother, Isaiah and Faith, and even get to meet his nephew, to from his sister Sarah, Eli Bradley as well. So they get really close. And so that's basically the story of Josiah. He's where he is now, though, is kind of weird because he just kind of disappeared out of nowhere, which is
in lore, or you mean they stopped writing about him?
In lore.
Okay,
They claim like he used to visit the Bradley family weekly, but then at some point he just stopped, and so they think he's on a mission. But it's kind of weird. He's also like, again, his version of the super soldier serum is perfected, and so he's like this 50-year-old man basically running around in a 27-year-old's body.
Yeah.
So he's extremely fit, still very old, but has ties to government. So they claim he's on this apparently super secret mission, but Marvel hasn't touched it since, and it's been about over 15 years now.
So Justice X, really cool name.
Yes.
Obviously, as you said, it was an allegory to Malcolm X.
Yes.
How political is Justice X? Like, obviously, the Vietnam origin story, like that's like heavily political. But I'm talking about like in his
still
missions,
very
I guess,
political. He definitely still helps out like Black communities. Okay. I think he worked alongside with the Black Panthers as well. So yeah, still definitely very political.
That's cool. That's cool.
And then from there we lastly have Eli Bradley, who we brought up earlier. He's the grandson of Isaiah, the nephew to Josiah. His mother is Sarah Bradley, who moves with the rest of their family down to Arizona, and Eli wants to stay with Isaiah because he's going through high school and is almost done. So he's like, I don't really want to leave. These are my friends. So he lives with his grandfather. And as I said earlier, he meets up with his uncle, so he knows about the Captain America legacy that goes in their family, and he's inspired by this. And so, funny enough, in the not the last episode, but like last few episodes, we went over WandaVision's children, Wiccan and Speed, who were part of the Young Avengers, and Eli would actually end up joining the Young Avengers too. So I'm just gonna briefly go over this. If you want more of the backstory, just check out that episode. I talk about it a lot. But a young version of Kane from the future, who is a famous time traveling villain of the Avengers, young version, still a good guy, comes back in time because the Avengers disbanded, and he needs to start a new Avengers team to, one, hopefully prevent himself from becoming Kang, and two, preventing this future disaster that's supposed to destroy the timeline. And so one of the people he wanted to recruit, he recruited Wiccan and Speed and all them, or actually Wiccan first, Speed came later, but he wanted to recruit Josiah for the team. But Josiah's gone. Josiah is nowhere to be seen. Remember, he disappeared. So when he visits the Bradley family to find him, he finds Eli, who then claims he's like, "Oh yeah, I have my grandfather's or my grandfather's powers, the super soldier serum. It passed down through genetics, so I can be the member of your team. Like I wanna be the next superhero."
Did that also mean his mom had super serum?
Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Okay. So Eli joins the team as the Patriot. He's the skilled strategist or strategy tactics leader of the team, essentially.
The Batman. Essentially.
Yeah, the Batman, or more the Captain America.
Yeah. That character also exists. I forgot.
But he joins the Young Avengers. So things aren't as they seem with Eli. And actually, Wiccan is the one who catches Eli in a lie when he discovers Eli taking this miracle drug that gives him powers, because Eli had been lying to them this whole time and lied to Kang originally about inheriting his grandfather's powers. Oof. He actually didn't. And if the reason I say, remember the baby being born when I was talking about Isaiah Bradley's story, she was born while Isaiah had just gone off overseas.
Prior to the super. That's why I was curious earlier how that would work.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So Sarah did not have so the daughter did not have the super soldier serum at all. So neither did Eli. So Eli was lying to be a part of this team because he wanted to be like his grandfather and his uncle Josiah, which, understandable. But now, you have someone who has a drug problem on the team. And it's actually really cool because, again, you don't see these touched up in a lot of teenage comics. They kind of briefly talked about them in Teen Titans, but they kind of more dealt with in like Green Arrow comics when it came to Roy Harper, Speedy having a drug issue and things like that, or Static Shock. But it's been a while since we had that kind of story, especially touched up in Marvel, that when they don't really deal with young heroes that much. And so now you're dealing with a kid who has a drug issue at this age, Eli. And so the team doesn't shun him or anything. They actually try to help him and show him like, hey, you're more than what you believe you're worth. You're a great team leader. You're a great strategist. You know tactics. So over time, Eli actually starts waning off of his drug addiction. And he would actually eventually get his dream too of becoming a super soldier, because in one of their battles, he takes a fatal wound in order to save his teammates. And so he wakes up after this long surgery and blood transfusion and sees that his grandfather is in the bed next to him, who gave him a blood transfusion, which gives him super soldier-like abilities.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
And that's where Eli officially becomes the Patriot. And where he is now, he does eventually quit the team. I think he's retired. There's a new Patriot character. I don't quite remember if it's Eli. I don't think it is. I hope Eli comes back, and I'm glad he's in the TV show. But that's the history of the Bradley family. They have a huge impact on the black community in Marvel and other black heroes, and are kind of leading the way when it came to a black Captain America. So I'm glad they're touching up on that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I really didn't think they would, but fucking awesome that they bring up Isaiah. It's a little different in the TV show. I think he's basically been completely imprisoned, or maybe at one point he still got out to have a child and a grandson. We don't see any mention of Josiah though, so I don't know if they'll bring him up at all as Justice X. But we do also have Eli in the TV show, who could potentially become Patriot, aka like Falcon's kind of sidekick. Maybe. Falcon also has someone who takes up his moniker and also becomes a sidekick, and he was revealed as well. Like the new Falcon, he was in the first episode.
Yes.
So maybe he'll have two sidekicks, or maybe Eli will be Bucky's sidekick. I don't know.
It'll be so interesting because they're introducing like a lot of like low tier characters.
Yeah.
How they decide to implement that if they go back like to the normal movies and stuff like that. So, when we go to, like, the Avengers, for instance, right? Like, I'm assuming not all these people are going to come out of the woodworks to help. Or do you think they will? I'm not sure.
Marvel's been very scared about their TV shows because they, with their Netflix TV shows, that was connected to the MCU for a little bit. There were references between Daredevil.
Yep.
But they strictly would not mix the characters at all with
this one's,
with
like,
MCU.
super mixed
this
in
one's,
now, right?
Yeah, because you have the actual movie characters now leading the TV show.
Yeah.
So I would hope... I feel like they will. I think if they're introducing these characters, it's kind of for a reason beyond just they want to explore more TV stuff. I do think they'll show up more in the movies whenever, Sam gets his Captain America movie or, Wanda gets another Scarlet Witch movie and Doctor Strange. But all these other characters, I don't think they'll be main characters. I think they'll be side characters brought in a little bit, maybe during the battle scenes and stuff. I don't think they'll be fleshed in until maybe later on in their movie genres.
Well, I always get worried because like the bigger your movies get and the more bigger problems you're dealing with, the more I can't see a lot of these. I get worried about some of these characters being involved. So like the new Falcon, for example.
Yeah.
Let's say he shows up at the Battle of Wakanda, right?
Yeah. People will be like, "Wait, who's that? I didn't watch the TV show."
Well, also, he's gonna get killed like really quickly, theoretically, right?
Falcon didn't die in the Battle of Wakanda.
But it's Falcon, bro. It's
there's
Falcon.
a new Falcon, and he has Sam and
homie.
Bucky teaching him.
I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's done that in the TV show yet, but in the comics he did.
Yes.
They'll be fine.
Okay.
But that's the history of the Bradley family, Gino. Did you have any other questions?
No, I think that was it for the most part. It sounds like a really cool comic series. I'm actually very interested.
Yeah.
In regards, I'm glad Marvel decided to touch upon stuff like that in the early 2000s as well.
Yeah, I'm glad the Young Avengers are getting their due now. Because we see Tommy and Billy. There we go. Tommy and Billy in WandaVision and stuff like that. The Young Avengers were just kind of not talked about at all for the longest time in Marvel. A lot of their young heroes, like Avengers Academy and stuff like that, weren't talked about. But I see them bringing them back up again. Some of them are getting solo stories and things now, and I think that's partially because they wanted to use them for the TV show. So I'm glad. They're a cool set of characters, and I love exploring legacy characters in the next generation of heroes, personally.
In terms of, just this is one more comment about the movies. Like, I really do want to see like Marvel expand on its like teams, because I think they kind of got scared off when the Defenders really didn't do that well, for example. And the sad part is that Marvel has so many like teams and has so many really cool teams to work with, know. And I just really hope that they're able to commit almost to it. It would be cool. Like, I'd love to see like the Young Avengers on screen.
I agree. It's kind of a thing with DC too. Marvel and DC, you think, Avengers and Justice League. That's all you really think about. And that is not the case. There are so many other teams that are honestly cooler than both teams and just have more dynamics to them, have better relationships, more history. It's really cool. And so I hope Marvel starts to expand more. We'll see it with Fantastic Four and X-Men hopefully soon. And then hopefully with the Young Avengers version of the team, maybe Spidey leading them with Eli as the Patriot, and maybe the kids reincarnated with Billy and Tommy being Wiccan and Speed. I honestly think that's what they're building up to, if I'm being completely honest, because they said they had more plans with Spider-Man being kind of the head of their thing.
And it works well because he's young too.
Yeah, exactly. You have Tom Holland for a long time. You can build him up.
I'm sorry, I'm sticking on the comic books. It was just because we're not at our segment yet. who do you think is going to be the next quote unquote leader of the Avengers? Like really, like in the movies, who do you think they're leading up to?
I think it was going to be Black Panther, but with with him with Chadwick being gone, I don't think that'll be the case now. I just don't think fans want Captain Marvel. I'm okay with Captain Marvel taking it, and I think Disney wanted to go that route, but I think with Captain Marvel, with all the backlash around her and stuff, I do think Spider-Man will probably be it'll either be Sam Wilson as Captain America, just for like temporarily whenever the next big crazy event happens, or it'll be Spider-Man by the end of this saga, kind of like the full 20 movies, yeah. So we'll see. I think Spider-Man would be the next logical choice, but I wouldn't mind if it was Captain America or Captain Marvel either, because Spidey is a little young, so who knows? But
it would have been cool if it had been Chadwick Boseman.
I would have loved to see Black Panther lead, because in the comics, he kind of leads them right now. I mean, it's more like Tony and Black Panther, but Black Panther's more like the team leader and strategist, and so fucking awesome. It's sad that we don't get to get that.
It is quite sad.
But. That's
on that depressing note.
Sorry to depress you, but that's the Bradley family. I hope y'all liked it. Again, if you want to see more, check out the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV show and see where they go with that. I'm very curious. I'll definitely be keeping up with that. Bam, that's comic book news for you today, folks. Anime news.
Oh, now we're doing it,
I guess.
Oh, didn't see you there. Anime news, us.
Gino, I walked in from the comic news segment. You knew I was coming in.
Fuck. I wasn't prepared.
Oh, God.
I definitely don't have a script written up right now.
No, we don't do this scripted. What? Never.
Season 2, Part 2 of Attack on Titan. It's coming out winter 2022. So we just got to get through this summer.
Watch it be December 2022, not January.
I don't think it. I believe it's this upcoming winter, because I think that's how they.
That would make sense, but just watch it. How funny would it be?
Do you know how mad people would be?
Very.
Like everybody's waiting for it to come out with the daily releases, and it's just not. And they're like, "Where the fuck is it?" And Mappa, the animation studio, is like, "Oh no! We meant December 2022."
Silly
bitches.
And that clarifies it, because we weren't sure if the last finale, quote unquote, was a
season
mid-finale or a.
Well, I think all the manga readers knew. Not that I'm not a manga reader, so I didn't know. But
you just didn't do your research.
I think all the manga readers were like, "No." Wait, there's gonna be a part 2, and that's how they've been dropping seasons. So I'm not totally surprised.
That's really cool though, because the manga ends this month. This month. So
that's why I'm
that
saying Mappa's like jumping on it.
I'm glad, because I hate when anime diverts from like the official ending, because a lot of animes do, because they get ahead of the manga.
They do.
And then
they want money.
Some of them will literally redo their anime because it's so bad. And so I hope Attack on Titan is like, we'll go by the manga.
They are. I mean, I think Mappa knows they kind of have to in this point.
Part 1 seems to be going by the manga, so I don't think it would differ.
People have been really hating on them. The animation company.
I don't get why. I think we talked about this like the second episode.
Somebody mentioned it on TikTok not too long ago.
Really?
In regard, we had a quick conversation about it, and he was asking, what did I think about Mappa's animation? Did I think the fight scenes? Was I excited for a certain fight scene, which I didn't know about? Now I guess I do. And I was like, I really appreciated their fight scene. They weren't a big fan of what I saw was, again, the 3D CGI. They said they weren't a big fan of. And the one I will say I think they fucked up was the classic Eren jacket scene.
Oh.
Where he flips his jacket up into the sunlight. Again, that's not a spoiler or anything. That's just this famous manga panel.
Yeah.
And he's like, they kind of fucked that up. So he's like, I'm a little worried. I was like, well, yeah, I'll agree on the jacket one. I was like, I've really enjoyed the fight scenes. I think the fight scenes from this last season have been kick-ass. Like the Warhammer Titan versus Eren.
I still haven't seen it. I want to watch part 1.
We'll watch it together. It was pretty. Nikita actually watched Demon Slayer, episode 19.
Yes, it's. I was a little like kind of on a lull when I was watching it, but once 19 hit, I like it. I see why. I see why there's such a huge fan base around it.
Yes, and why there's so much hype.
Yeah,
around
for the movie.
too.
Oh my god,
it's gonna be amazing. I'm
just like 3 more weeks, I think, from this episode being released.
I believe
when it'll
so.
be out. That's crazy.
So.
We'll definitely do a review.
The amount of people who are like, I've already seen it online. I'm like, y'all.
Good for you not supporting.
we can't. I was going to say, like, that can't be us. I'm sorry. Speaking of big shonen movies, though,
Yeah.
There's a new My Hero. I don't know if you knew this. There's a new My Hero movie that's coming out.
Did hear about it. Do you know what it's about? I actually, sorry, just a fun little comment. I just caught up on the My Hero manga. I don't read much manga, as you guys know. I'm more of the comic book nerd, but at times I'll read.
He does like My Hero.
Yeah, at times I'll read some manga and watch some anime, and Gino will read some comic books and watch movies and TV shows. But yeah, My Hero is actually probably one of my favorites. Maybe it's because
you just like it because it's superheroes.
Literally, actually, though, that's probably the main reason. But
I like Japan's take on superheroes. It's very cool. It's ironic that it's almost like House of M with like the fact that everyone's got powers.
Well, no, in My Hero, not everyone has powers.
No, I'm saying a majority of people have powers, though, right?
They don't.
What do you mean they don't?
At least. Oh wait, maybe they do. They just.
Everyone's got.
I think they just recently disclosed that the majority of people there are going to be less and less regular humans in My Hero, and that was a big plot thing. Not to spoil it, but yeah.
Yes.
But anyways, yeah, My Hero, really cool. But so wait, they're making a movie though.
This is
based on
the
anything
third movie
in the manga or just non-canon?
I don't think
like
so. I think
usual?
it's just another non-canon one.
Okay.
My Hero hasn't. The
movies haven't been canon in general.
Demon Slayer's like making one of their arcs into a movie is something that's happened recently because it started with Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super was the first one to really like take a movie to test out the waters and then implement it into the plot. Meanwhile, they went ahead and just did it like a normal series afterwards.
They still did adapt it in the anime.
But they've done that several times now with like they did it with Resurrection with Frieza.
Yeah. The original Beerus movie.
We think they're going to do it with Broly in the future now.
Yeah.
If they have not already. I don't keep up with Dragon Ball Super, so I don't know if he's been introduced in the main canon yet or not. But they want to. Like Akira Toriyama has talked about how he wants to move Broly into the main canon storyline.
Are they doing that with Demon Slayer? Not to get too far away from the My Hero.
I don't think they've talked about the next season, or they've released like when the next season's coming out. I don't know if they've talked about whether or not the movie is like considered. You have to watch it for the canon. You do in the manga, like it is canon.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're gonna do a reiteration or if like
gotcha.
they're gonna suggest like, hey, go watch the movie, then the series will pick up from there.
Series, yeah. Okay.
Which I don't mind if they do it that way. Like I kind of like the idea of like if you can contain an arc into one movie like that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Go for it. I think it's really cool.
Easy. But for My Hero, what's this movie about? Do you know?
From what I know, I think Deku becomes a criminal at something. He's a criminal or something like that. That is something I saw for. I haven't looked that deep into it.
The suits look pretty cool though. It's like all black suits with
they look
the secondary
baller.
color highlights.
They look
I
good.
like
Todoroki's. Oh
yeah,
it looks so fucking cool. He's got like the nice hoodie and everything,
and just the clean white or like light blue.
And the coloring that they did, like the kind of electro coloring that they did on these black jackets, I also think looks really cool. So, did you ever see the second My Hero movie?
No, I've only watched the first one.
I would highly recommend the second one over the first
Really?
one. The first one was okay. The second one, the ending, Nikita, fucking exceptional. I got to see it in theaters. I was not expecting much, and like, cause my friend dragged me out to see it, and I was like floored at the end. I almost cried.
We gotta make a movie night out of that. I'd be so down.
Well, it's hard to find copies of it online.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been able to since I saw it initially at our local Regal. But I will give it another go. We'll see if we can find it.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
Okay.
So I forgot to mention it drops in Japan on August 6th. Mm-hmm. We don't have an international release date yet, but hopefully for this one, they'll be able to get it out quicker because COVID restrictions are kind of lessening down. So that's the hope.
Interesting.
But yeah. So get hyped if you like My Hero.
I'm hyped. Hey,
join
with me, fans.
You're a My Hero fan?
I am.
Oh, you
My
didn't
Hero
say.
Stan.
You didn't say.
Yeah, Gino, I don't know if you knew this. My Hero's kind of my favorite anime.
Well, I guess before we go into the main segment, who's your favorite My Hero character?
I mean, I like Deku, but also All Might. I know those are
All
pretty
Might's
basic.
All Might's
answers,
pretty great. I'm not a big Deku fan, but All Might's pretty baller.
I like Deku's character growth because a lot of people hated Deku because they were like, oh, he's just a crying shonen. That's it. No, that's literally just the first couple arcs, and you see it now. He does not cry anymore. He is a badass.
And this is from your experience in the manga, because I don't know.
Both manga and anime. I haven't caught up on the anime. I stopped at the arc where they're doing like a mini class school festival.
Yep.
But otherwise, I've caught up all the way on the manga, and both I feel the same way.
Okay, well, I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you have your anime.
Thank you.
But let's talk about.
Us, baby. But
Uzumaki.
Uzumaki.
I wish I could make my voice like distorted and like really creepy. And no, not Naruto. You fucking weeb degenerate POS.
I'm sorry.
Insert other insults here. I can't cuss you out in Italian, unfortunately. My knowledge of this that far. But no, not Naruto Uzumaki. I'm glad I know that word, by the way. But no, not Naruto Uzumaki.
Okay.
But Uzumaki the manga by legendary legendary
got it.
horror.
Horror.
We're gonna start this from the beginning. Wow. Uzumaki,
Yes.
a manga written and illustrated by famous horror mangaka
Yeah, good job,
Junji
good
Ito.
job. Ah, there we go.
I don't know why I can't say horror today.
That's
Horror.
I say
horror.
Horror.
I sound like I'm from fucking the
Horror.
north. Horror.
You're a horror.
It just sounds like
Anyways.
horror. It's terrible. This is the worst.
Okay.
Anyways, we're talking about Uzumaki today because it came released at the end of 2020. A trailer dropped from Toonami, which, if
Okay.
you don't know, is Adult Swim's like anime segment that they
Yeah,
show every Saturday night.
Okay.
Released a teaser trailer for what's going to be a 3-part special where they essentially go through the entirety of the manga. I think they'll release in 3 1-hour blocks over 3 weeks, sometime in 2021. We haven't gotten any updates since the teaser trailer dropped,
So
but
like 3 1-hour episodes
I believe
to
so.
adapt the entire manga. Is the manga long or?
Well,
is
they'll
it-
probably cut down on things. There's a lot of like stories within the manga,
Okay.
and so you could probably cut that down if you wanted to.
Yeah.
An hour is also a long time.
Not to be confused, just to make
Yep.
sure. Is it like a linear story or is it a collection? Is Uzumaki like a collection of horror stories?
It's a linear story. It has a beginning and it has an end.
Okay,
it
gotcha.
becomes episodic, kind of.
Okay.
If that, so you've seen Cowboy Bebop, not yet.
No, not yet.
Cowboy Bebop is episodic, where I can show you like a random episode, and like most of them you can just kind of see without context, and you'll just be like able to get into it.
Yeah.
You could do the same thing with Uzumaki, but there's definitely like a beginning and then there's an end.
Okay,
There's a
okay.
definite end.
So it doesn't
where it's
matter
like-
if they cut out a lot of stuff. 'cause
Correct.
It's not
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
integral to the plot.
And there's some episodes that are probably better than like certain chapters that are better than others that you can just cut out and be like it would be okay. There
Yeah.
wouldn't be a huge problem with that. Anyways, Uzumaki, if you didn't know, in Japanese translates to English as
Yeah.
spiral, which is why Naruto Uzumaki, interestingly enough, his symbol is that red spiral thing on his back,
Yeah.
which is literally where the family clan name comes from.
Oh, spiral.
It's spiral. Yes.
Cool.
So you're like,
job,
why the
Naruto.
fuck is it called Spiral? That's so interesting. Well, Uzumaki is a seinen horror manga, which again was written by Junji Ito.
What does sign-in mean?
Seinen, thank
Yes.
you for asking, is essentially the opposite of shonen. So shonen, as we have My Hero Academia, is
Yeah.
written for a target audience of kids who are about like 12 to 15 years old.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, a lot more people who are older than that usually graft onto
Me,
it.
22.
But that's their initial target audience, right?
Yeah.
People like it afterwards, whatever. It's because we have a huge difference in culture between Japan and the US.
Fair,
Understandable.
yeah.
Seinen, however, the target audience is meant to be like adults. It is 20 to upper 40s.
Oh, okay.
Like target audience,
Wow.
essentially.
Yeah.
So when I say seinen, it's pretty like Evangelion, I believe, is a seinen. I
Okay.
don't think it counts as a shonen. I'd have to ask
Yeah.
Justin about that, but I'm fairly certain it's meant for like adults.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a horror seinen. So that means they're kind of going for the big bucks here. We're not talking about like My Promised Neverland, for instance, which is
yeah.
more kind of written, I would say, for
good.
younger audiences,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so we got out seinen. Now you want to know who's Junji Ito? I've never heard of this guy before, right? I have. Most of the people in the manga community have. But
I
you
didn't
got no
until
fucking
today.
clue who he is, right?
Yeah.
Junji Ito is a very interesting guy in the fact that he got very popular in the 90s with this story about a immortal woman who essentially tortures men. She's kind of like a succubus almost, where she seduces them, and then she tortures them in various psychological ways.
Okay.
He got very popular in the 90s for this kind of series that he was running.
Lovely lady.
But other type of like longer stories that he's made that have gotten him more popular, for instance, he had this very interesting manga called Gyo, which was literally about like dead fish coming back to life from this weird bacterial strain, and like they were half fish, half cyborg kind of dealio, and they were coming onto the Japanese mainland and killing people. Very like weird idea, right?
Yeah.
Like super strange. Like horrific though. If you ever read it, you're gonna be scarred.
Okay.
Another example, he did this one called, what is it? Oh, The Planet's Gone Crazy for Ramina, which is essentially about this dad scientist. He's a astronomist, right?
Yeah.
And he's out looking at planets, and he looks at a planet, and it opens this giant eye and stares back at him. So think about the planet from the Green Lantern's logo, right? But no, this giant planet opens a huge ass eye and sees him and is like, oh, like that's Earth down there. And this giant animated planet goes as quick as it can to Earth, just eating planets along the way until it gets to Earth, fucking up Earth's atmosphere. People are freaking out now because everyone can obviously see this planet coming. And so they start trying to like chase down this father and his daughter, and they end up like crucifying the daughter, for instance.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, it's fucking like
What?
it's insane. Hold on.
Yeah.
Real quick before you. I want to hear your reaction to the planet.
That's an ugly looking planet.
Isn't it terrifying?
Yeah, Gino just pulled up the image for me.
If you get a chance, look it up. You'll definitely know what I'm.
Planet's gone crazy for Ramina. Who's Ramina, anyways?
That is the daughter of the scientist. The scientist ends up dying. She becomes the main focus because everyone, like I said, they're trying to crucify her. They're trying to like they think it'll appease the planet if they sacrifice her or something. It's some pseudo religious nonsense like that.
Interesting.
Essentially, though. That happens. Some scientists think that potentially maybe they can live on this planet, but it ends up being this like giant hellscape and it kills them all. The world's top politicians abandon Earth because they think that they can live on this planet. And again, they perish as well.
Wait, so the planet gets to Earth, right? And then it's just not eating it.
Yeah, well, before it eats it, it decides to lick it for whatever reason. So that's why you saw that picture with the tongue. It licks it while she's in the middle of being crucified with this homeless guy that she met while her and her father were trying to escape.
Yeah.
This is spoiling the whole book, but trust me, if you read it yourself, the plot doesn't really that matter.
Yeah.
You will get what you need out of it if you're a horror fan. Literally, the planet licks it. It sends Earth like on this spiraling out of control thing, obviously, and so like the homeless guy and Ramina are like, well, I guess we can escape now, and they do. The homeless guy happened to have family who had like a nuclear fallout shelter or something like that, and so he allows her, because they had become friends, to stay with him in it. And so while the planet is consumed, this nuclear fallout shelter drifts off into space, and like that's kind of their ending. They survive, but like.
How long can you survive out in space in a nuclear fallout shelter? Which is crazy because I don't even know if that would handle the depths of space. But
it probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
You know,
I don't think it would.
Wow.
Holy crap. Sorry, Gyo is a little harder to explain. You have to kind of read it, but the planet's gone crazy for Ramina is a pretty great one, I think, in terms of like getting into the mindset of Junji Ito, talking about how fucking insane this guy's like plots that he comes up with are.
Seems like a crazy old man.
Well, so me and Nikita, before this, I showed him a interview of Junji Ito just to kind of get, because the reality is that while he's got a fucked up mind, the dude just seems like a pretty chill normal
guy,
I would say he's a pretty adorable old man. Like that is what it comes down to. If you ever look up Junji Ito interviews, very sweet guy, very polite. He has like a sense of humor that I think is really nice.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. And then you read his stuff and you're like,
how the fuck did you come up with
who
this?
hurt you? Man, like what is happening? I want to talk about those in the future. Like I'd love to go a little bit more in depth to Planet's Gone Crazy for Ramina, or like maybe some of his other stories another time though. I want to start with Uzumaki because not only is it coming out on Adult Swim, but it was also the first Junji Ito piece that I ever read. It was recommended to me back in early high school. Uzumaki, which means spiral, is essentially Junji Ito's attempt to subvert like what he was seeing as like the spiral in Japanese culture was like a symbol of like positiveness or like childishness. So like he said in a lot of like child cartoons, he was seeing like swirls being drawn on like the children's cheeks, for example. And in Pokemon in our culture, we see that when like a Pokemon's knocked out, like they get like the spiral eyes, right? And so it's seen as like a childish concept. And so he was like, how can I make that terrifying? And he went a little crazy and like literally for about half a year kind of like dove into the idea of a spiral. Like, so he did research on it. He drew a fuck ton of spirals. He said that he used to spend like hours of a day like filling up a bathtub just to drain it like over and over and over again just to watch like the spiraling water. He ate only ramen. He raised like a colony of snails, for example, because they have the spirals on their backs. Yeah, man was obsessed. And through that 6 months transition, he's writing and stuff, and he finally comes up with Uzumaki. And I'd say his goal was to make it into a horrific symbol. He absolutely succeeds in every possible way.
Do spirals haunt your dream now, Gino?
They have since high school.
Oh,
yes.
Jesus. Oh, God.
I don't like spirals for a very specific. Whenever they have those like kind of lollipops that have like the more spiral.
Really?
It's not even in the manga. Nothing like that in the manga. Like candy wise, I don't fucks with it no more.
So he did a good job with it, apparently.
Yes. You're like, yo, like, Gino, what the fuck is this manga, like, actually about? The main story revolves around a high school couple, Kiri Goshima and Shuichi Saito. Like I said, they're a couple in high school. One of them, I believe, goes technically to a school that's outside of this little town that they live in, the town being called Karazu Cho,
Yeah.
which literally can be translated into Black Vortex Town in English.
Nice.
And
Good
the
symbolism there.
gotcha is that when the manga starts, the town apparently has been put under this spiral curse,
Okay.
quote unquote. And
Yeah.
so the way it starts is Shuichi Saito, who is the only one in this town who is immune to whatever this curse is, or he can see beyond it.
Yeah.
A lot of
the
people
boyfriend.
a lot of people in this town like have this thing where they just kind of don't realize it's happening. So for instance, like the stories I'm going to tell here in a second, Kiri just goes over her head. All these like really horrific things are happening around her, and she's just kind of like,
Okay.
like, okay. But he can see it all.
Yeah.
And that is the story. That is what Uzumaki is essentially following, is these two like dealing with everything that's kind of happening. Or like one of them dealing with it and the other one just surviving it accidentally or through whatever means.
Yeah. So they basically, okay,
Yeah.
so everyone under this curse can't see the horror and monsters and stuff around them.
For the most part. Or if they do, it's not resonating with them. It's not sticking.
Yeah.
So like I punch
That
you in
is-
the arm, you're like, ow, and you just don't even acknowledge it after that. A lot of the adults in this manga, like, that happens too. These really bad things will happen, and it's just kind of like,
That is really creepy to think about. That's
Yes.
a very creepy setting.
So, for instance, let's get into our first story about how he uses spirals to fuck with our minds, right?
Yeah.
So Shuichi Saito, right off the bat in the manga, becomes an orphan.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
poor kid.
Yeah, and this isn't spoilers. This is like the first chapter, so like you find this out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It starts with his dad becoming super duper obsessed with spirals. That is the first weird thing that happens in this town, is that he goes from like drawing spirals to like wanting to eat all his food in spirals. So like think what Junji Ito was doing.
Yeah.
This is what his dad was doing essentially.
Oh, wow.
It
And
goes,
this is before or when the curse gets placed
This is
on
now
him?
that like the curse has been placed. This,
Okay,
this is
gotcha,
right
gotcha.
smack at the beginning of the manga. It
Gotcha.
begins with this. Saito's parents, his dad specifically, is on this, right? And it goes so far that he eventually wants to become a spiral himself. So he shoves himself into a tub, like a circular tub,
Yeah.
to become a spiral, and it kills him, obviously.
Yeah.
His mom freaking out because she saw what the spirals did to her husband,
Yeah.
becomes terrified of spirals and starts seeing them in everything. So one wanted to create spirals so much so to the top degree. The other one is seeing them in everything. So she's freaking out. She isolates herself. She ends up like cutting out her eyes. I should say there is a trigger warning
Yeah.
for the amount of gore
very, very gory.
that is in this manga. So if you're into that, that's okay. Go read it. If not, I would recommend not listening to the rest of this section.
Yeah, just skip to the end, the last 2
yes.
minutes.
Thank you for staying for the rest of the time.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate it. Love you. Mwah. Yeah, she ends up like gouging out her eyes. She ends up in the hospital where she finds out her eardrum is technically a spiral. So she
Oh my god.
forcibly removes it with scissors. And the worst kicker about that part is that because she knocks out her eyes and her ears, she goes into an endless sense of vertigo. Yes.
No.
Yes.
You screwed
And so
yourself,
she's
Linda.
stuck in the hospital in constant terror because she's just constantly in this feeling of going into a spiral.
Yeah.
And that is how the manga starts.
Does she die? Did she kill herself?
Yeah, she dies
I'm
eventually. I
guessing?
think she dies from whatever you would say is like, I don't know. Eventually, you lose the will to live, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't remember specifically what kills her, but yeah, she dies in the hospital,
Nice.
especially after
Yeah.
with the scissors.
Okay. Poor kid.
Yeah. So and then so
Shoot,
you got Saito, who's like, bruh, he's depressed for the rest of the manga,
makes
obviously,
sense,
because
that
he
makes sense.
realizes what's happening. His girlfriend can't entirely be there for him because she gets like, oh, he's an orphan. It's sad, but like, she doesn't understand. She doesn't make any connections with what happened to his parents to the rest of the things that happen in the manga.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas Saito sees everything.
Is there not? I don't know if this is spoiling it or not, but is there a reason Saito sees everything?
No, I literally had to look that up again because I couldn't remember, and they make an excuse that like maybe it's because his family moved into town, but like they kind of find out eventually that doesn't really make sense because there are other people
Who moved
in the town who are
Yeah.
also the same thing, and like everyone else seems so he seems to be like, I think, as like a narrative device, supposed to be the one who either we have our eyes seeing through or like we're supposed to empathize with, or literally like Junji Ito himself essentially.
Yeah.
And for most of the manga, like for a majority of the problems that come up with the spirals, he's the one that like solves them, or at least saves what's her name?
His girlfriend.
Saves his girlfriend. Yeah. That's essentially how it goes down. Ready for part 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, so another one that I thought was
God.
really interesting, and I thought it was related to the fact that Junji Ito raised snails during this time, was that there's a specific snail chapter, and it starts off with they introduce this classmate of both of theirs who is like a really slow guy. He's kind of a lazy dude, and like they notice as like the days are going by that he's becoming like slower and slower, and people start like heavily bullying him for this. And one day somebody pushes him down, and like I guess because he's like a bigger kid, they wanted to take off his shirt to really like embarrass him.
Yeah.
And they see that he's got this like growing spiral like on his back, like imprinted like a tattoo.
Yeah.
And
Like
so
a snail shell.
as time goes on, he becomes slower and slower, and eventually one day it becomes like a lump. And they all come to school one day, and it's a man-sized snail is just like planted on one of the school walls, and it's this kid. And so the guy who initially bullies him is still bullying him because, again, like the curse makes it so they don't have this full comprehension of what's happening. So he's literally bullying this guy who's literally a snail. And now this kid shows up to the next day at school, slower and slower. And before one day long, they're all in class one day. And this other kid, they have like specific characteristics.
Yeah.
This one kid they all know is like on the school window. And so they end up putting them both in a cage together. They escape one day. And they follow their slime trail onto the woods, and they had eggs. Weird, I know.
Okay, so they had sex. Nice.
Yeah, they disappear. They're gone from the rest of the manga. The teacher discovers the eggs, and he's like disgusted by them or whatever, so he starts breaking them. At the ending of the manga chapters, this teacher also becomes a snail, and it's just this perpetual cycle. Yeah. That's the snail.
Tall
episode.
human-sized snails rolling around town. Do they ever escape the town into other towns or anything? So he, what about? I don't know why Saito didn't just leave the town.
Because his girlfriend was there. He was a nice guy.
Fuck it, yo.
Yeah. Well, the crazy things you do for love. There's like so the interesting thing is that if you do get a chance to read Uzumaki, I would highly recommend it if you're into horror.
Yeah.
You can go afterwards and look at like literary analysis of it, and it's very interesting about this conceptual the conception of a spiral and what it represents in like human interaction. Can be very fucking cool when you like apply it to Uzumaki. I don't have those memorized. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've read those, and I don't want to go over them all in the podcast. I'd like for you guys to discover them for yourself. But after you do read it, I highly like encourage you to go and look at like the after effects and like how people have talked about this manga over time, because it's really fucking cool. The ending is really fucking bizarre, and I don't want to talk about it, but like it's really cool if you get to it.
After this episode, I want to talk about it because I want to know what happens.
Yeah, okay. Let's get to the last one, and then we'll leave this horrific mess behind us.
Yeah.
The Medusa chapter, which this one I actually thought was like really, really cool. And it's actually one of the lesser like gory ones or like disgusting ones. This one I think is just more kind of cool, I suppose. Yeah. And so it's called the Medusa chapter because I got to get her name because it's going to frustrate the fuck out of me. I think it was Kirimi, right? I always feel bad in talking about like manga and anime with other people because they'll drop the names to me, and that's usually not how I identify characters. Like I usually just go by their clothes and stuff.
Yeah. And
so they'll be like Kiri. They'll go by like, oh, like, so for instance Todoroki, they'll be like Todoroki, and I'll be like, oh, the fire and ice guy, because like I just don't memorize names usually. It's not my thing.
And some of them, I mean, we're American, so it's harder for us to pronounce.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it happens. So the Medusa chapter, essentially, Kiri, her hair starts going into curls, and like everyone's like, "Oh wow, like it's really beautiful. Like we love curly hair."
Oh no, the boyfriend's like, "Oh shit."
And he's like, "Yo, like you need to get your hair cut." And then straight up, like that's how the manga chapter starts. Is he's like, "Kiri, you need to go to like a salon and get your hair cut."
Yeah.
So she listens to him because she likes him, and when she goes to the salon, her hair literally attacks the salon person. Like it self-protects itself. And so Kiri's like, well shit, I guess I can't get my hair cut. And so it gets longer, and there's more curls, and there's this other girl at school who also wants to be like a socialite. She also wants like to be the popular girl and everything.
Yeah. And
so she is like super jealous over Kiri and her hair and everything, and one day she also wakes up and her hair is doing like the same kind of thing where it's constant, it's growing more. She's gaining more of these curls.
Yeah.
And this jealousy thing happens because her hair is always slightly behind Kiri's, right? So she just hates Kiri because, like, she wants to have the most beautiful hair.
Yeah.
And the the chapter like leads up to this point where they have this like epic hair battle, like what's her name from the Inhumans,
Medusa.
Literally
yeah,
Medusa.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally, yeah.
It becomes this fucking hair battle where the two hairs are just like going at each other and like trying to kill the other person essentially because of this jealousy factor, I suppose.
Yeah.
Saito literally has to come by and like fucking take a huge knife and cut off Kiri's hair to save her. He pulls her back. The other woman's like, oh, you don't have your hair anymore, you lose or whatever. And she goes on, becomes like super popular, and her hair keeps growing. And Saito's like, yo, you've been getting like more frail as your hair has been getting bigger. And so he hypothesizes that the way it's working is that the hair, in order to power itself and to continue to grow, is stealing from the life force of the actual person. So the manga chapter ends with this other girl barely able to walk home, like literally crawling, gets up to a electric pole.
Yeah.
And the hair wraps itself all around the electric pole, grows out continuously to the sky, keeps growing, making these spirals everywhere, and she dies from exhaustion because she doesn't have any life force left. And that's how Medusa ends.
Lovely.
Is that not cool as fuck though?
Yeah. Cool.
The battle, I will say, I remember reading it in high school and being like, yo, like, I love this whole,
that's sick.
You know.
It's very creepy.
But yeah.
Which it's meant to be. Yeah. Wow. I see why Uzumaki is,
He's like shitting himself over here. I love this. This is
oh
perfect.
God!
Okay?
I'm starting to understand why now you have a fear of spirals.
Dude.
That's why I don't think I'd actually read this manga. I just want to know how it ends because if I read it, I think I would actually grow a fear of spirals.
And so, because you're not a big fan of like gore and stuff like that, like express gore.
I mean, I'm okay with it. I've read some gory comics. I'm fine with it, but stuff like that where it's very like the guy's purposely trying to get you to be scared of spirals. That gets me.
There's one that I don't want to
target.
There's one that I don't want to show you.
Yeah.
I'll just say it's basically this girl. I don't remember which chapter it was from. I don't know the context of it.
Yeah.
But this girl has like a giant like hole in her head that's like a screwdriver like spiral. And I'm not gonna go in any detail than that. But what I will say is that people like wear that around as like a front for their hoodie. And I'm like,
I can't imagine any Uzumaki type merch.
It exists, and people wear it on a norm. That's what I'm saying is it's fucking insane. I'm like, I don't know why, you know.
Neither do I.
I mean, like I said, Junji Ito, great manga artist. Like he does really awesome stuff. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't understand like the fascination with it. I guess it is an interesting phenomenon.
Dang.
I'd say
Uzumaki. Wow.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't think I want to ask any more questions.
I got Nikita speechless for once. Maybe let's go.
This just be Naruto.
This is great. So yeah, if you're into horror, please go check out Uzumaki. If you end up actually reading it, hit us up. I'd love to have an in-depth conversation about, as I said, like the literary aspects of it. I think it'd be very interesting. There's a lot of YouTube video essays and stuff online that you can also go check out. I would highly recommend looking into it. Look forward to the Adult Swim variant that they'll be dropping.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really interesting.
I might watch that. I can watch horror stuff. Reading is just a whole nother thing.
They made a live action version of it in 2000. I don't know how the fuck they did. I've never seen it before. I don't want to see it.
It might be bad though. It might be really bad.
It probably is. I think it was only it was made in Japan. So
interesting.
But they also tend to struggle sometimes with like anime adaptation to live adaptation.
Yeah.
So
dang.
But yeah.
So that's Uzumaki for you, everyone.
By Junji Ito. Again, I highly recommend going to check out interviews
Junji Ito,
by him.
King of horror, apparently.
He is. Crap. He is something else.
Dang.
For sure.
All right. Well, what a positive note to end on. Yeah, I'm still just scarred from those stories. Good Lord. Is that everything for Uzumaki?
That's all I had to tell. I thought that would be good enough. I
liked it. I think that was a very good segment. I just am scarred now.
For those who are interested in horror, I'm sure they are like, wow.
Yeah, if you love horror, hey, this is perfect for you. Check out Uzumaki. I'm sure you can find it.
I feel like you're gonna struggle to find pictures for the thumbnail for this one.
I'll find a spiral.
I think if anything, you can find a spiral. You can find one of the book covers. If you find the book cover, those tend to be pretty normal. As they say.
There
if you just have big Uzumaki,
I'm
sure
not
those
put
who know
anything
will know.
Specifically from the manga. I don't think I would be comfortable enough.
Don't think we're gonna. I think we'll get flagged
if
we do that, and we're trying to make it out here.
Yeah.
Do we have any like closing notes for them? Like I think we already plugged the the TikTok, Instagram, YouTube.
Well, we can plug it again. Hey, check it out at Your Resident Nerd. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Instagram, you'll see a little bit more of like some personal posts. For YouTube, it's just kind of the full length episodes. We're actually about to start switching to video. You all saw with the Zack Snyder review a couple weeks ago. That was full video. That's kind of how we want to start doing the podcast more. So if you don't just want to see our or listen to our voices, you can also see our faces.
If you're new to the channel, thanks for coming by. We appreciate having you here and that you decided to stick around and listen.
Yeah, if there are other stuff you want us to talk about, hit us up on those platforms. Even TikTok, I just mentioned with TikTok, we post a lot of funny memes. We also do quick little reviews based on stuff coming out and quick little news. So you get a little bit more for a little bit less. So
if there's anything specific you want to talk about in terms of like the content of our episodes, again, please hit us up. We're always willing to talk about what both of us find great passion in.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. Also,
check out the Team Kong versus Team Zilla merch. That if you want to support the show, that's a good way. We didn't really push it as much because we had some issues with the sites that we were using, and then it was just kind of last minute with the movie. But
where can they find a link for that?
That will be in our Instagram bio specifically. So go to our Instagram, check out our link tree in our bio, and it should be the top link. It's a Teespring website, and you can find both designs there. It's just a good way to support. It's a good way
to support us. It's a good way to support if you're Team Kong or Team Godzilla.
Yeah, honestly.
Either way, if you're just listening, we appreciate that too.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. We haven't gotten a chance to work on our bonus content for
Patreon and stuff like that.
And the Justice League. We're working on that. We need to get past April because we're kind of getting hit hard with finals and stuff like that. So give us a little.
Bear with us a little bit, but I promise it will be there. You will get your Patreon and bonus content. But yeah, that's everything for us. Thank you guys for listening. My name is Nikita.
What are you? You're Nikita who?
I'm a big comic nerd.
And I'm Gino, the biggest weeb west of the Mississippi.
Ain't that the truth? And we're your resident nerds.
Thank you for watching.
Peace.